This is the Horse Radio Network.
Welcome to Adulting with Horses, the podcast for weird horse girls, and the best place to be if you can't be at the barn. Put down the muck rake, turn up the volume, and let's have some fun. I'm Heather Wallace of The Timid Rider, and I would like to see Natalie. How are you doing this week? What's new?
Hello, here is Natalie.
That sounds very sad. You gotta put up the energy there. No, I'm just kidding.
Everything is good in Natalie land. So I guess for everyone who is going to be showing at World Equestrian in their air-conditioned arenas, good for you. The rest of us will just try to dodge the mosquitoes when we ride at sunrise and sunset.
Yeah, there's a reason that the Winter Equestrian Festival is until the end of March, right?
Yes. Yeah, and you could really see the exodus of trailers last weekend and the weekend before. The route that I take to my farm when I go up from my apartment in Central Florida runs right up through Dunellen, which is like a town near World Equestrian Center, and people have to take the same road north to get to the interstates, and the trailers were going like one after another. The big rigs are driving north. Can you imagine the cost right now?
Show people problems.
Oh, well.
Yeah, Holland,
oil
because a lot of those
reserves
have the
needed.
diesel engines and
Yeah,
the gas prices right now.
exactly. Like, we need every barrel we can get just to get the horses back up north. It seems like a poor use of resources, but
yeah, but I mean, I keep saying I'm going to winter, or at least because I have the kids, I'm going to come down for like a weekend once a month, and massage the horses down at WEF and WAC. And then somehow that time passes and I'm just like, oh yeah, forgot to do that.
oh yeah. And it's long, but it just goes right by. And it's like one of the busiest times of year as a parent, right? Like the Christmas season into spring break.
Yeah.
So kids are doing testing and you've got vacations to plan, and you have to start thinking about where you're going to put them for the summer, where you got to stow kids somewhere, right? And yeah, it's just gone. And you get to June and you take a breath and it's like, oh, nothing is happening. It's, it's hurricane season. It's hot. We're done here.
Yeah, right. I don't know how you handle humidity of Florida in the summer. I mean, I struggle in New Jersey. I'm like my horse. We both hate the summer. And we would just wait for it to pass. And it's an unpopular feeling. So I don't even know how you do it in Florida.
I like to leave.
Oh, well, that works.
So last summer, I rented a house in Colorado and I stayed there for a month. And then I drove 2 weeks through Utah and New Mexico and Arizona. So I just touristed.
That sounds awesome.
And so, the year before that, I sat in my apartment.
COVID.
But in 2019, was it 2019? I went to Scotland for a month. I don't remember. But I go to cold places and I just stay there.
Very, very smart. You do like a reverse. Well, I always say when we bought our place in Vermont, I said, I'm going to spend the summers up there. and then the rest of the year I'll be down in New Jersey at home. And I've already plotted. I mean, half of July, I'm already planning to be up in Vermont. And obviously they still have seasons, it's still going to be hot, but it's going to be like 10 degrees cooler than it is here.
Yeah, we learned that when we lived in New York City, that it was best to just leave in July, just go away for a little while. And so we started picking cold places to vacation, and it's been really.
You know who else does that? The Europeans. They pick August and they just decide to leave. And I think that we should all do that.
Humans should be migratory.
Yes. I'm going to be the reverse snowbird. I mean, I don't mind winter. I don't mind it. I don't love it, but I don't mind it. What I do mind is walking outside of my house into a wall of wet and immediately sweating after I've actually showered.
Oh, I'm just used to, I grew up here. That's what life feels like to me. Life is damp. and sticky and something is biting me. That's just,
okay.
I'm used to that.
I don't want to get used to that, but then good for you. No, it's funny. All of my friends, they think I'm the weirdest. They're like, why do you hate summer? I'm like, I hate summer. You have no idea. I hate summer. And all winter long, I'm like, working outside. And, I ride over the winter as long as the footing is good. And I just, summer, I would rather hibernate. And I'm like, I think I might have something wrong with me, but I'm okay with that because I like being weird and different. So there you go.
I'll give you one advantage of being a Floridian for life. And notice when we're together, you look very put together and fantastic. And I look like a mid 1950s school teacher who's given up on life. That's because I've never worn makeup. I do not bother with my hair. My hair's always frizzy. It's humid.
Yeah.
So my life is so low maintenance. Like I just pull on a tech shirt, pair of shorts or leggings. We're done here, people.
You're ready to go. You're ready to go.
There's no point. There's no point.
Thank you for saying I look well put together because
You're very well.
You always see me when I'm actually socializing and I make the effort.
No, as you know,
but I appreciate.
I've never made an effort.
The vote of confidence. Who is it? I went up to my friend's barn yesterday. Some really good friends with these girls, Connie and Allison. I went to Connie's barn yesterday to work on Allison's horse. And she walks up, she goes, "Oh my God, I love your hair." I was like, "Thanks. I washed it."
Well, remember at the expo how delighted we both were with my hair when I used mane and tail conditioner in it because I didn't bother bringing conditioner from home.
Yes.
And my hair was super pretty with mane and tail.
It was soft. It was supple. And, I told you, like, you got to get their free samples and then you're hooked. That's why they do it. Because the mane and tail products, they're not just made for the horses. Mm-hmm. I'm telling you, it's, I've learned that the hard way. And now my bank account's very happy because mane and tail is definitely affordable. And you'll never see longer, beautiful hair.
Yay! So today we're talking about the wildest things we've ever done with horses. And I don't like to brag, but also I do. And I have done a lot of really bizarre things with horses. People always ask me like how I fit so much in. And I explain that I usually only keep a job for like 3 to 6 months at a time. And that lets you get more in. It's like a book with really short chapters. You can just read so much. You can read it so quickly. And you're like, holy cow, so much story just happened. So that's the James Patterson effect, in case you're wondering. It says 2-page chapters. Although he writes like
Confessions of a Timid Writer. So, am I like James Patterson or is he like me?
Well, so my next sentence was, they're written that way to be the exact length of time you're on the toilet. But
or for me, it could be the exact length of time that you're in the saddle because I don't ride for very long.
I like that. I don't either. 20 minutes is good. But yeah, I was trying to think about the wildest things that I've ever done with horses. And naturally I went to like jobs because I've had so many bizarre horse jobs. And the one that, one of the things that I did was I interned, I was a working student, sort of apprentice thing at a breeding farm. And that in and of itself, like a lot of people never get to work in breeding. And breeding is fascinating and it's dangerous and it's dirty and it's sloppy, but I loved it. But my job at one point was literally penis washer, so I used that for gag value.
Hey, your husband has a field day with that one at cocktail parties.
Anytime I'm amongst civilians, I like to. Well, I used to be a penis washer. Just to
brag, but
because my conversation skills are not the greatest. So what I do is I just drop bombs.
Like shock and awe.
Exactly. That's my cocktail party approach. And then I just go back in the corner and pet the dog. Well,
now I know.
Yeah, it was like we were doing AI. Somebody's got to clean that thing. And it's very dangerous. And I was probably working for someone who was telling me all the wrong things to do or something. But God, those were shiny, clean penises that I handled.
I mean, I love the humble brag. Or the brag. I mean,
that's a full-on brag.
That's a full-on. Now I have a visual in my head that I don't know.
Ivory soap.
wanted. So
one was the Clydesdale, one was a Friesian. So they were larger horses.
Those are big boys. Well, and it's funny, actually. I have a friend who runs a barn, and she has a stepdaughter that she put in charge of all the sheath cleaning because she wanted the daughter who was in high school to really know what it meant to be like dealing with a penis, right? She wanted it to be grungy. She didn't want it to be sexy. She wanted it to be a functional biological thing. And, honestly, I was kind of impressed at like the chutzpah that she did. And her daughter is actually quite mature. And it's kind of this running joke. She's like, every time they're like, oh, so-and-so needs the sheath clean, everyone like calls her name. And she's like, I'm the penis girl. Like,
honestly, at first I went, oh my God. But now when I think about that, that's one of those things that makes horsewomen so no nonsense that it's really hard for, anyone of the species, male or female, to really pull one over on us, right? Because we're like, whatever, we don't care. It's a penis.
I've seen 1,000 of them, literally, and they're all bigger than yours. Exactly. Congratulations.
Exactly. I did. We can talk about this or not, but once at the Ocala Barnes & Noble, which I worked at for a while, a guy outside the plate glass windows did open his coat and flash me, and I did laugh very hard. This is a true story. I just bubbled over laughing. I was like, okay, buddy, like, this is Ocala.
Congratulations.
Nothing new here.
That happened to me on the subway, because New York City, right? Like, how many times have you been on the New York City subway and someone whips something out to pee or whatever, and this guy
never times, but that's just me, my luck.
No? I mean, it's happened a number of times. I mean, I wouldn't say to me, but like in my vicinity. And you're like, you can ignore it, or you could be like me, and I'm like, ew, man, put it away. Like, you know what I mean? And like address it head on, right? Because he's trying to make you uncomfortable. So like, why don't you make him uncomfortable back? Right? It's really hard to shock horse girls, I think.
It really is.
But yeah, so I thought that was interesting. So anyway, your story made me think about that very vividly. Thank you.
You're welcome. It's important, you have to know where the horses are made, right?
Well, I mean, not to go along with your story, but like when I'm considering the wildest things I've done with horses, I was going to be like, oh yeah, playing with them in Mongolia, but no, because that might not be the wildest thing I've ever done. The wildest thing I ever did was teach someone how to palpate like the hamstrings and the puffy area around the anus of the horse to express gas. So that if they were gas colicking, they would then be able to release that. So I did that this week.
I need to know how to do that.
I can definitely tell you how to do it. It's very easy. And not all horses are the same. So sometimes you got to feel around in there. So like recommend wearing gloves, because if you're a horse person, right, like me, sometimes I forget and I go and have a granola bar later. And then I realize, ew. So don't be like me, like wear gloves or like wash your hands. But yeah, I'm very prideful of the fact that I can make any horse gassy.
De-gassy.
So that's my wildest thing I've done with horses, is teach people how to actually express gas.
It's never the obvious answer, is it?
But why is it always so like, well, we both chose very biological responses, which is, I don't know if that says a lot about us.
I think it just says that we're practical people. I think that's horses have made us practical. We're like, horses got gas, horses got dirty dicks. They both got to be dealt with.
They got it. Well, and not to go back, but like I've never cleaned my horse's sheath, like never.
Yeah, sheath cleaning is not something that has always. Some people are religious about it. I never really have been, to be honest. But yeah, for breeding, everything has got to be squeaky clean, because you don't want to get the mare dirty. I had a stallion give my mare a UTI once. That's what we call it.
Oh, so it's personal for you.
Obviously.
It's very personal for you.
It was offensive because this was a big thoroughbred farm. We took our mare, we had a certain expectation, and she comes back, A, not pregnant, which ended up being a thank God because she was insane. But a B, dirty. He got my mare dirty. Offensive.
That's just wrong.
I would never have sent a mare home dirty. I got in there and I scrubbed.
I bet. Well, you have experience, so.
Yeah.
I love that. So I'm wondering too, like what our listeners would have, like, as you guys are listening, like, if you have something that is a wild thing you've done with horses, it doesn't have to be biological, like we've chosen. It could be something cool, like travel or whatever. I'd definitely love to hear that. So, I think
We've
Natalie,
probably done really cool non-biological things.
there's probably
like,
loads of them out there.
Yeah, like ride with the hunts in Ireland, or like I wish that was my answer, quite frankly. I wish I was like, I rode with the Galway. What's the Galway one? They always want to sell you Galway Blazers. I rode with the Galway Blazers and didn't fall off once. That's what I want my answer to be.
Well, maybe if we do this like in another year and we do a check-in and we say, what are the wildest things we've done with horses? Maybe this is our impetus to actually do something cool and wild and not gross enough.
Oh. Yeah, you didn't say cool before when we came up with.
We didn't specify cool.
Yeah,
that's okay. So yeah, I'd be very curious to see what people would say going forward about the wildest things. And I mean, I guess we could think of other things. It was pretty cool. I got to ride a Mongolian horse, not once, not twice, but 3 times. In the Gobi Desert on the Khenti Plain. Where Genghis Khan lived and left a legacy. So like, that's cool, but that's not the thing that sticks out in my brain. When you told your story, I immediately went to the butt stuff.
I almost wonder in an alternate universe, if you went first, what I would have said.
I don't know if we'll ever know, because
maybe I shouldn't be allowed to go first.
Well, the next section I'll be talking about first. So maybe that will get you.
All right.
This is why I love chatting with you, Natalie, because we play off of each other really well. And we also don't take ourselves very seriously.
One more biological thing, and then I'll leave it, which is I once had a vet say to me, Natalie, I love you because you always take things just a little further than what I'm comfortable with.
That's a compliment.
I thought so. It was definitely biological in nature. I don't remember what we were doing, but I made a comment and she just turned and looked at me.
And for you to like actually do that to a vet and the vet to take a double glance, like it must have been a real good one.
Yeah.
All right. Oh, I'm intrigued now. I'm wondering like if I could guess it, but there's so much inappropriateness that's in my brain that I'm just going to enjoy the idea of it. Do you remember what it was?
No.
Oh.
No, it was probably sexual.
Isn't that the best? Our next section is we're going to talk about one thing behind the scenes of a horse show or an endurance event that you wouldn't expect. Now, we definitely came up with this topic. I did not prepare for this topic. So we're just going to go, full on ad hoc, kind of very out of the left side of my brain. And I'm going to think about, so I've been working with a lot of endurance events lately in the last couple of years out in Mongolia. I've been to Tevis. I'm going, Vermont as well. So one of the things I think that's really interesting about endurance events is they camp with the horses, right? So, which is the coolest thing. Like, I think that's the reason most endurance riders actually get into it, is like they camp with the horses. So when they're packing for the events, they have these checklists so they don't forget anything in the trailers, right? They've got extras of everything. They've got extra toilet paper. They've got extra hay, extra straw. They've got electrolytes for their horses, electrolytes for themselves. They've got all these really basic necessities things. But what they don't ever have for an entire weekend is a shower. Okay. Now there's some places that you can, if you're camping, they might have showers available, like a 2-mile walk down to the campground or whatnot. Or some people may be really bougie and have like a little outdoor shower like attached to their trailer. But it's like very, very, very basic. And it's also, most people don't have that. So if you're riding 50 miles, you're riding 100 miles, even 25 miles, right? You're sleeping overnight, you're changing your clothes, doing all that, all of which is done without showering.
I'm having a hard time imagining. When you said if you're riding 50 miles, that was where my brain stopped operating. And because I can't even comprehend that. I think, what do you think we ride in an average 20-minute session, like 3/4 of a mile?
I mean, maybe a mile tops.
And then, all the time that's spent sitting there with our feet out of the stirrups, just talking. I don't know how that factors into that 50 miles. And I didn't realize they camp. I don't know anything about endurance. I'll be honest with you.
It's really cool. I mean, it really is cool. But yeah, well, my friend told me, she got into it because she wanted to do the event in Mongolia, and now she's obsessed. So now I crew for her all the time.
That's like me saying I got into horse racing because I wanted to ride in the Dubai World Cup. Just, like, or I'm super, I like writing books because I like writing books because I wanted to win the Nobel for literature. Like, what?
I know.
And then
I also literally, she had no idea that this was possible. And then she was like, that sounds fun. And she ended up learning how to do endurance riding. So I was there her first 15 miles. I was there her first 25 miles. And then I watched her do almost 300 miles in Mongolia. And then last summer we went out to Tevis and she did 78 miles. She didn't make it. Her horse went lame because it's a full 100 over the Sierra Nevada mountains, by the way.
So how many days is the Tevis?
Oh, no, it's only 24 hours. You have 24 hours to compete 100 miles.
Oh,
yeah. And so,
it's just so out of my depth.
it's so intense. And so there are people who, like the people who go out to that, I will say the people who go out to that, they pull in their huge trailers. They like live in quarters trailers. So then they have a shower. Okay. I'm talking about like most people that can afford to just live and pay for their horses. They don't remember to bring a shower. Right. But yeah, no, it's intense. I mean, I am gearing up to do 5 miles. Like, I feel like that is a good goal for me.
Yeah. I mean, that would take like an hour.
I'd be very tired. I would be very tired. I'm not gonna lie. I gotta work up to it though. Like that's and it's funny because my friend now tells me, she goes, oh yeah, let's go on a trail ride. I was like, oh no. You're an endurance rider. Your trail rides are 15 miles. Okay. Her trail ride is 15 miles. Like that's her trail ride. I can't even fathom. I'm like, maybe that's my max like I'll ever do. But then a lot of endurance riders are actually older people who are just tired of the sports, like of hunter jumpers and all this and the bouginess, right? And they just want to play with their horses. And so that's kind of why endurance is so cool, I think, in my opinion. It's just so relaxed and they have fun, but they are smelly. By Sunday, it is a wreck.
Gosh, that's a whole thing. I have never, when I was a kid, there's that one photo of the Tevis Cup that they all take. It's like on Death
Rock. Yeah.
Yeah. And that, I don't know if it's just the way they shoot that photo or if you're really like clinging to stones. So that turned me off of ever going anywhere near endurance because I'm not riding my horses up Death Rock and no, it looks terrifying. I'm also now afraid of heights, which I wasn't when I was a kid. So now it would have to be, there's a thing in Florida called the Great Florida Cattle Drive.
Yes, I've heard of it. I want to do that.
I very much want to do that. And that would be training for endurance. Like that's an all day saddle, several days long kind of thing. And that's pretty high on my list of things I'd like to find a really deadhead horse to do it on, or maybe my horse would do it. We'll have to see. Because that just blows my mind. Like when they ride those horses through South Florida where they used to have the cattle and like Florida, and not a lot of people realize that Florida is kind of where cattle ranching in North America began.
Really?
Like the tribes that lived in Florida took the Spanish cattle and built up herds of them and grazed them on our prairies, because we have tremendous, beautiful prairies here. And there are still native run ranches down in South Florida, like in the reservation areas and all around Lake Okeechobee and stuff like that. It's an old Florida tradition. And Florida used to have more cattle than Texas.
That is really cool. I had no idea.
Huge cattle ranching tradition in Florida. Like even here, like I live right outside of Orlando, right in the Kissimmee area. And Kissimmee is known as a tourist destination. But my son's graduation and the county fair and all that kind of thing, it's held at the rodeo park. Like, and they don't have a county fair day off like you might get up north, but they have rodeo day every year. And the Silver Spurs Rodeo is a huge deal. This used to be all cattle country.
I have a question. Does all of this happen in February? Because I need to come live with you for a month if all of this happens at the same time.
I think it does.
Stop.
No, I'm dead serious. I'm pretty sure it's in winter. The Silver Spurs Rodeo. I don't know. I lied. I don't know for sure. But because I remember the fair was going on in early February, and they always have a rodeo at the fair.
And I think the cattle drive, if I remember correctly, it might be like end of January or something like around that time, because that is something that I've always wanted to do, a cattle drive. My friends are doing a horse drive coming up in Idaho in May. And I was straight out of that. I'm sorry. That's like 100 miles chasing like roaming horses. It's all fast paced. And I don't have that kind of grit in me. And I also don't have like the sticky pants, right? That really,
right.
Like, if my horse turns to get another horse, like I'm on the ground and I don't mount from the ground. But a cattle drive, on the other hand, that's my kind of pace. Like, I would love to do something like that.
Well, we're going to have to add that to the list. We're going to be very busy and very tired, but
maybe we spread it out a little bit. Like start with the Renaissance Fair.
I think
how we do.
The cattle drive might be every 2 years, so that works.
That would work. Yeah. Well, either way, that would be a lot of fun, and we'd give us some time to like actually work our way up to it, because I would need to obviously borrow a horse, or from somebody or rent or whatever. But so getting back to our topic, like you were just working behind the scenes at a horse show. Is there like interesting, what you wouldn't expect thing that happens behind the horse show scene?
So there were two things at this horse show that struck me as funny. And I've been out of the horse show game for a while. So this was a return for me, going back like a couple decades, let's be honest. And it was a hunter jumper show. And I took my son. So my son was doing jump crew and I was kind of assisting him, like, you know, he had really no idea what was expected of him. So I helped him out with all that and kind of got him rolling. And we noticed that the show organizer told us to grab some chairs from the sound booth. And the sound booth was this like block building overlooking the jumper arena. We're like, okay, cool. So we go in and we get chairs. And both mornings, there's a man in the sound booth who doesn't turn around, never acknowledges our presence. And we never saw him come out. We never saw anybody go in besides us to get the chairs. No lunch, or not that we saw. So we're started to speculate maybe the person in the sound booth isn't part of the horse show. He's just a guy that like lives in the sound booth. Like maybe he just hangs out there and he just comes with the property and you rent. And they're like, don't worry about the guy in the sound booth. Like we don't know what he's doing there, but he hasn't killed anyone yet. Like, I don't know. There was no indication that it could have been a mannequin, for God's sake. He never turned around.
He never turned around. Did you guys start like trying to get his attention, or was it just a game?
I did try to, but the first time I went in, I made some apologetic sounds because I was pulling chairs, you know, like plastic chairs apart, and, you know, and I chuckled and I said something, and no, the shoulders didn't twitch. The head did not tilt. Nothing happened. And so my son went in there and he was like, what's going on in the sound booth? I don't know.
Are you sure it was a human man?
At this point, Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was a human man, because if it wasn't, how would they have kept that secret for this long?
True.
You know what I mean? Like somebody would have come out with it and been like, okay, the swamp cabbage man lives in our sound booth. You caught us. We had him the whole time. Sasquatch is real.
Well, I'm meaning like a blow up doll or like a mannequin, but like, sure, let's do urban
I was
legends.
within like a foot of him because it's not a big space.
Oh my God.
So I don't know if every horse show has a phantom living in their sound booth or if that was just our privilege, but there's something going on there.
We need to dive deeper and really see. Like, I'd be curious, the next horse show, if you go back, will he still be there?
Yeah. They have something going on almost every weekend. So it could be a long-term surveillance project.
So like the mystery of the lonely sound booth, where I mean, this could be a new urban legend that it gets created in Central Florida.
Yeah. And it could give people the courage to share the story of their own horse show phantoms, because there's probably something at every show that's a little
Creepy,
right? It's a creepy business.
and that would be very interesting.
Yeah, there's probably something a little strange, just a little like, why is that like that? At just about every show circuit that you go to, especially the older ones, I think.
Yeah, I think so. Well, there's this new, I've been watching some TikToks, and I keep scrolling past because like I get the heebie-jeebies. I'm very superstitious, but there's a couple of these people showing like haunted barns and like hearing the voices in the barns or shadows in the barns. And I just like, nope. I keep scrolling through, but like, I wonder how many barns, horse shows, or, something like that actually have like creepy occurrences.
New trip for us. Ghost tour of horse show facilities.
That'll be fun.
Devon's got to have ghosts, right? That place
Devon
is
has
really
to.
old.
They have to. And Devon's so close to me.
Yeah.
I volunteer as tribute, but I might need to carry some kind of protective equipment. Like,
you should go with full-on ghost hunters and do the night goggles and everything.
I have a thermal camera that I use in my bodywork business. I can use that. But here's what happens. What happens if I find something and everyone hears me scream like a little bitch? Because I will be trapped. Like trapped.
No, that any little girl scream, that's a sacrifice for your craft. Like,
that's fair.
You're
we could, when we go closer to Halloween, we could tell some spooky stories, because I have ghost stories up the wazoo of like events that actually happened. Yeah. To me.
Yeah. To be continued.
To be continued. So like, for all of you listeners out there who might be interested in this topic, like, gird your loins and think of your own stories, because I'd even share your stories on the podcast, right? Like, I want to hear them.
Yes, we will have to get a way to take voice recordings so we can hear people's spooky stories firsthand.
Yes.
Spooky month.
They can take like voice memos or leave a voicemail. And we can do, and then the person who gets me to scream like a little girl wins a prize.
Oh, I love that
idea. To be fair, a squeal of laughter is very different than a spooky, scared squeal. So like, you have your work.
Yeah.
Okay. So on this episode's Pop Corner, we're going to talk about pop culture trending in the horse industry. And I was recently scrolling, Natalie, through Heels Down magazine. And I saw, very intriguingly, that in May, there's going to be a Buy a Horse Book Day. It has its own hashtag and everything. And I'm super excited about this, because obviously this relates to us as authors, but I have a question. Who is making up these hashtags and holidays? And will there be one for every single day of the year? Where does this stop, Natalie? When does it stop?
I originally thought these were an act of Congress, which is terrifying at this point. But like, if we could go ahead and get a Listen to a Horse podcast today, that would be not listen to a horse podcast, although that would be fantastic. It would just be like lots of snorting, but
a little nicker here and there.
Horses podcasting,
ASMR. Okay,
my God, what
really
a
popular
podcast
right now, Natalie.
Two guy horses. But listen to a horse podcast today would be a great holiday that we could maybe petition our representatives to put together for us. Like,
I don't know if we need to petition anybody, though. I feel like we could just come up with that and be like, this is what it is. And now everyone has to follow. And like, we could lead the parade.
Wait, so you think as a citizen, you can just adjust the calendar to make a holiday? Do you have that power? Do we have that power? I think
if we get it trending, we absolutely have that power.
Oh, the power has gone to the people. All
right? It's a democracy. It's a horseocracy.
It's a horseocracy. Every day is free carrot day in the horseocracy.
No, I think I love the idea that we're going to do, we've got this thing. So like, of course we can advertise and we could do some fun hashtags on social media and play with that for the books. But like, yeah. I'm really curious to see like who comes up with these hashtag holidays, right? Like, where is this coming from? Is this coming from heels down? I mean, I think we need to ask, like, where did you hear about this? And we need to find the source, because I'm very intrigued, since as an author, I had no idea about this.
Well, they're pretty influential over there at Heels Down.
I think they could pull it off.
I think that they could get a trending holiday going, if that is indeed the line. Like, and one could ask what constitutes trending, because you can really drill down on that on that menu to get it like to your neighborhood.
And if so, maybe we can get them to suggest, they've got a great podcast. Maybe we can get them to suggest a horse podcast hashtag, and then we all just jump on that bandwagon and play with it.
Yeah, I think that there's a joint podcast hashtag opportunity here, is what I'm seeing. I listen to their podcast. I don't listen to a ton of other horse podcasts. And the reason is that I listen to one podcast called Podcast The Ride, and it's like 2.5 hours about like a random themed restaurant from the 90s. And I have to devote all of my attention. Like, if they're going to talk about a restaurant themed around underwater submarines that serve submarine sandwiches, and this is a real 2.5 hour podcast I listen to, that's just it. That's my entertainment.
Gotta dive deep.
Yeah,
Unintended.
Because of the submarine. Yeah. Like that's my zone out. But it's good because you're hanging out in a barn. If like me, I'm all by myself in the woods on my farm. But I'm very strong and powerful would-be thieves and burglars. So
yeah. Avoid Natalie, because she makes friends with goats. She has an attack goat on her property. Or she will.
It's a Florida farm, and I have a machete. But podcasts are, that's how people who live alone in the woods make their friends sometimes.
And back to the horror, you and I. Like, that might be for October. Or that maybe that's how you find a boyfriend. I don't know.
That's how it all works.
Everybody likes something different. Okay.
So Heather, horses are weird. And so this week we decided we wanted to talk about the weirdest friends our horses had ever made. Because what are they thinking, our horses?
They're so weird.
Yeah, I struggled a little bit with this one because I didn't want to go too obvious with like, oh, the miniature horse companion, which is pretty common, I think, or oh, the goat in the shed row, pretty common. Also why I hate goats. Probably willing to temporarily suspend my goat hate so that I can get my farm more cleared. But let's just say there's a big goat at Belmont, or there used to be anyway, and he was all over that backside and he didn't like me. And
Uh-oh.
I felt very, it wasn't that he didn't like me. It's that he knew I felt very uncomfortable around him. And he exploited that. Right. So we had unfortunate, and actually he did chase an assistant trainer into a tack room, and she was stuck in there for like 2 hours.
So it wasn't just you.
Yeah, it was Tony Dutro's assistant, I want to say, because they were in the next barn over, and she was one of the few women at this was at Aqueduct, but then they went to Belmont, and then it was a whole thing. I think it was Gary Contessa's goat. So if you know about New York racing at all, then all those names made sense to you, and if you don't, they're humans. But so one time I was keeping horses at this place that was literally this guy's backyard, and it was a whole thing. And he went to an auction and got this little paint, he called him the stud colt, but he was a yearling with balls and pretty, standard boy yearling stuff. And he made friends with my son's stroller.
I did not see that coming.
So I had a very small person at the time. Calvin was under 1. He was very little, and so I had a stroller. And when I needed to deal with the horses, and I also had Calvin, sometimes I'd throw him in this stroller, and it was really cute. It was called a City Light because he was born in New York City, and they made this tiny narrow stroller that fit through New York City like grocery store aisles, which are only like 3 feet wide. And so I loved the stroller. I could haul it up subway steps without having to fold it. Like it weighed nothing. It was great. And I would leave it. Sometimes it would start pouring down rain, and I'd leave it in the barn, and the yearling kept pulling it into his stall and then just leaving it there. And I would just come out, and it would just be just under his stall guard, like in the corner. Like, okay, he wasn't doing anything to it. So I thought, this is fine. This is just an unlikely friendship.
Okay.
And it lasted. It was a good partnership for a while. At night, I'd leave the stroller, and in the morning I would take it out. But then he destroyed it.
Oh, but he just outgrew his little lovey.
Yes, he just turned evil, and he battered it. He ripped it. It looked like a tent that had blown over in a thunderstorm when he was done with it that morning.
Oh, I wonder what he did to offend him.
I mean, he's a colt, so
hormones, right?
He just, one day he'd grow up just a little more and realized he could destroy things, and that was the end. That was the end of his stroller buddy. So,
oh, that's so sad.
Yeah, but I mean, be sad for me because I liked that stroller and I never replaced it. He didn't care. He really didn't.
Yeah,
it didn't affect him at all.
Oh my God,
that is ascending to a new level of brathood.
That is an unexpected friend. Like, I feel that I am shocked and surprised and actually impressed by this colt. For even reaching out to an inanimate object and voicing that kind of love, which obviously went wrong.
Yeah.
But
I think it shows imagination. Like,
yeah,
anytime it's like claiming a toy and you feel like the toy is like your friend and stuff like that. And I kind of feel like maybe that's this colt. He needed somebody his age to play with. And in lieu of that, he made friends with a stroller.
Okay. Well, I think that's super interesting. And it's definitely not traditional. Like, I thought you were going to say like a llama or something like that, so that's, but well, and to get back to your story about animals chasing you, like, I consider myself a pretty good with animals. One time I was working on this one woman's horse, and her rooster was offended because I kind of used my leg to like ask him to move away because he was really, really close to me. And that was the wrong thing to do, because then he hunted me. I mean, there's no other word for it. He straight up hunted me. I was his prey. I had to back up into my car, and it was a good like 25, 30 feet. And I've never been so scared in my life that rooster was going to claw me in the face. Mm-hmm. And yeah. I know that they do that too. So, I mean, I barely escaped with my life. Thank God I wear glasses, but yeah, I was good. everybody was fine. But yeah, I don't mess with birds. Like I do not mess. They're very unpredictable. They are related to dinosaurs very directly. I do not mess with birds. That being said, snakes, bats, I'm good with, but so this is the weirdest friend. So I am allergic to bees. I'm just going to preface this. I'm allergic to bees and wasps. And I found this out very wrongly on a trail ride one day when I landed in a yellow jacket nest. Okay. Because my horse was getting stung. We woke them up. My horse was getting stung and he was warning everybody. So we got everybody out and I was the last to dismount and get off. And he took off and I landed on my back as I do, because I'm not graceful, and found out I was allergic to wasps as I'm running across the field, hitting myself with a crop, trying to get them off. Okay. So fast forward about 6 years, and I'm working with trailer loading with Ferris. And Ferris has been known to make friends with everybody. He loves dogs. He loves cats, also hates birds. So like he and I are very similar like that. We're doing really good trailer loading. And then summer hits. And suddenly there's this wasp that is decided to make a home out of the trailer. Okay. And they've started taking all of the saddle blankets, right? And the saddle pads, and like there's little mud nests all over.
Yeah.
And then up in the eaves of the tack room, which is attached to the trailer. And so I go in there, I open the door and like something would fly out at me. And then I'd look, and with a broom and but I never took the nest down off of the eaves because I didn't want to piss them off and get stung. Right.
Right.
And so as I'm working loading on him, I ended up we came to terms with this one wasp. It turns out it was a mud dauber, right? So I did my research. There's solitary wasps that actually create these mud nests, and they're pretty chill. They're pretty, as long as you don't mess with their nest, they're pretty chill, right? Mm-hmm. And so I would be working with him in the trailer and standing there walking around, and I would look up and there would just be the mud dauber would actually come out of the tack room and sit on the side of that Ferris would be and just watch. It was crazy. Like I felt like Charlotte's Web, right? Like Charlotte, like suddenly this animal was kind of sentient. And so Ferris and this wasp used to hang out together all the time. And I would be kind of trying to give my distance, but it was such a cool thing. And I never expected to not be afraid of this wasp. But of course, when we moved barns, the wasp flew out and left the nest behind. And I left the nest in now so we don't get new wasps, right?
Oh.
So that way that happens. But they also kill spiders. So I figured the wasp had to be my friend because I hate spiders so much. And so I found all these little spider carcasses all over the ground of my trailer. And so I've decided that Ferris and I were going to adopt this wasp. And we're going to be best friends. And it would never sting me ever because I wouldn't mess with it. And so it wouldn't mess with me. And I stand by that. And now we're back at the same barn again. And if I see that wasp, I'm going to introduce myself again and we're going to make nice. Like we're going to be friends so I don't die and get stung.
Anytime you can get a reaction out of a bug, that is amazing to me. I startled a caterpillar the other day and I laughed for like 10 minutes.
How does one startle a caterpillar, Natalie?
Okay, so this is spiky caterpillar season in Florida, which is just one of our hell seasons. And basically there's this caterpillar that is around for like 2 weeks, and if it has hairs on it, and if you touch the hair, it'll make you really itchy. So people think it stings them, but it doesn't. It just sucks. So we were eating at a picnic table on the way to the farm, and there was one headed for our stuff. And so I put a piece of lettuce in front of it off my sandwich. And it went, like it slung backwards, like it was an elephant trunk. Like it just went backwards and up. Like, what is this? It was so
sounds very dramatic. I mean, are you sure this isn't a New Jersey caterpillar?
That's why it was because it's a caterpillar, and yet it was expressing the shock and surprise that I had no idea like a bug was capable of. And Then it started to eat the lettuce. So it worked because we made a little fortress of lettuce around it so it would leave us alone while we ate. It completely worked. And then I startled some assassin bugs the other day, which ironically, assassin bugs eat the caterpillars, but I walked out of my house and put something down on the porch railing, and assassin bugs rear up too. That's their thing. And there were two, and they just jumped back and went, like, threw up their front legs in shock, like, what are you doing here?
It's like you have your own hype squad. Like, you're like, Natalie, what have you been up to lately?
I'm just
so shocking to everybody.
With the bug world, the insect world, which you have to in Florida.
You have to.
Yeah.
There's no getting around it when you live in Florida, but that's also why I don't live in Florida. So.
And it's good that you are making friends with solitary wasps, because they are incredibly beneficial, and they don't come after people. And yeah, they eat other bugs. Sometimes they're the only thing in your garden that eats destructive insects, and they pollinate, which you need.
So like they're doing the being so good for the environment.
You knew.
I mean,
you and Ferris.
I'm just the best.
You guys are like Captain Planet and Captain Planet's horse.
And then shock and awe over here with you.
Look, I fed the caterpillar.
You did. You're a good girl. We're proud of you.
Yay! Okay, Heather, I think that is closing out for this podcast. We definitely covered some interesting topics on this recording, and I hope nobody was eavesdropping in my apartment, or they're going to wonder what on earth we talk about. Like, I thought this was about horses. It's all about horses, right?
Yeah, exactly. Especially when we talk about penises.
Yeah, that's all equestrian stuff, please. So next time, I'm really looking forward to this. We are going to cover a couple really interesting topics. We're going to talk the most unlikely places that we've somehow managed to find horses. All right. So, whether it's the top floor of an apartment building, I'm just saying, or the bottom of the sea. Where did we find a horse? This is going to be weird, but fun. Then we're going to talk about our top 3 bucket list items, horsey style, and when book picks go wrong, which is always good because I'm always recommending the wrong things. And then for popcorn out, we're going to be talking something super sexy, Bridgerton, hopefully not penises. No, horses in Bridgerton. Get
your minds out of the gutter, people. Oh my God.
Once it's there, it's there. It's very hard to go up when you're already down.
That's what she said.
All right. Well, I think that we had better stop right now, Heather. Hard stop.
That's true. I guess we better call it a day. Well, thanks everyone for listening, and see you next time.
Thank you for being a little weird with us, horse girls. If you like what you hear, make sure to subscribe to the podcast on your player of choice. Follow us on Instagram at Adulting with Horses Podcast, or even better, join our Adulting with Horses Clubhouse on Facebook, where you can become part of the show. Also, it's a great place to meet other horse crazy women. Thanks, and see you next time.